friends.
We're here, and you should be able to hear us. Maybe say something just to make sure you can hear us, so that we know. Yeah. So hi, we're back. It's like 70 degrees outside, so we all decided to wear shorts
And not shoes.
and be barefoot because, yay, it's getting warmer and hopefully it'll be like actual spring soon. All right, so today's lesson is about body isolations. And so we're going to be talking about how to move all the different parts of your body and then how that ties into your solo jazz so that you can do some different solo jazz things instead of just doing the moves. You can try to make it your own. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. So the first one, your neck, obviously, head isolation. So if you just stand straight up, bring your head around, bring it the other way. So your head can go in a circle. Go ahead and nod it up and down. And shake it back and forth. I like this one, it's a good neck stretch, going back and forth like this. So that's your neck. So you can do all sorts of stuff with your head. All right, now we're gonna move to shoulders. So go ahead, rotate your shoulders around and back, Just do one side, and the other side. Yeah, now forward, both forward. And just one, and the other.
Can I go in both ways?
I don't like that. You can also shake your shoulders back and forth. This gets your rib cage involved. Shimmy. You can also bring them up and down like this. Go ahead and do that. So your shoulders are super mobile. They move in a lot of different ways. So you can move them in a lot of different ways, but you also want to make sure that you protect them because they can move a whole lot. And so that's why we talk a lot about protecting our shoulders and being careful because your shoulders can go do all sorts of stuff if you take care of them. All right, so now with shoulders and arms, we can bring our arm up and around. Start with one arm, up and around, up and back. And the other arm. Boom, boom. Now both arms. Yeah. Your arms can also come up and back down. Again, this is a lot in our shoulders. Yeah. All right, let's see. And then, let's see, we have our elbows. So our elbows can turn and turn. Yeah. Elbows. Our elbows pretty much only do one thing. So you can bring them up or down. All right, and then our wrists. Our wrists can go in a circle. Shake them out. If we go forward and back. You can also just drop everything else. So it's only your wrists moving, only your hands. Yeah. So body isolation is moving just one part of your body at a time instead of everything. So like this right here is a wrist isolation. So we're only moving our hands right now and nothing else. All right, and your fingers. You got fingers. They can do all sorts of stuff and pop, I guess. So fingers. Yeah. All right, so moving on from our arms, we have a rib cage isolation. So if you think about your rib cage, going forward and then back, and forward and back. Try to do it without moving anything from here down. Forward, back, forward, and back, and forward, and back. Yep. Now if you think about your rib cage moving side and side, and side, and side.
This one's my favorite.
Inside, inside. So I'm only moving from my belly button up. Boom, up, boom, up, boom, up, boom, up. Yeah. So now what you can do is you can take that and we're gonna go forward, side, back, side. So we're gonna go in a circle. So we go forward, side, back, side. Forward, side, back, side. Forward, side, back, side. Now, if you take that in a circle, you can bring your rib cage all around, kind of drawing a circle around your hips. Boom, boom. All right, so let's try going the other direction. So forward, side, back, side. So forward, side, back, side. Forward, side, back, side. Forward, side, back, side. So now if we take that in a circle, yeah. Yeah. So that's a really fun one. That's a good one to warm up kind of all your torso muscles. Just thinking about moving your rib cage. So I think like there's like a string at the bottom of my ribs, pulling forward and back or side, side. So it's a small one, but it can do a lot of really cool things, and you can combine it with other isolations and look like things are moving a lot.
You may start to get sore very quickly if you're doing some of these movements for the first time, just because these muscles aren't used to moving on their own.
Yeah. All right, so moving on down the body, we have hips. So our hips can go side to side. I think that's one of the ones we're most familiar with. Side to side, boom, boom, boom. Obviously, this involves our legs a little bit. We can also go forward and back, so forward and back. Forward, back. Forward, back. Forward, and back. Now this one isn't one so much we necessarily use in our dancing a whole lot, but it is important for keeping our core together. So we don't necessarily want to be crunched up like this with our hips turned in, and we don't necessarily want to always stand like this with our hips turned back. So we want to keep them nice and neutral because that helps our back stay nice and neutral. Yeah. So using forward and back, we can also take our hips in a circle.
Get a little bit of hula action going.
Yeah. So see, as much as possible, if you can only do it below your belly button. So think only below your belly button, as much as possible. All right, try going the other direction. One way this always feels a little bit weirder than the other ones. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. All right, so now moving on to our legs, we can bring our leg forward and back. Forward and back. This is my favorite hamstring warm-up, kicking my leg forward and then back. Boom, 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 boom. Helps to hold on to something for this one. Boom, boom. All right, do it with the other leg, forward and back, and forward, back, forward and back, and forward and back. Boom, boom. Now our legs can also go out, so we can take it out to the side and back down. Boom, 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 boom. And the other foot, boom. How far you can go with these is going to be dependent on your hip mobility. That's a whole other conversation talking about stretching out your hips and things like that. This is a good way to stretch out your hips if you're getting ready to go. Yeah. All right, so another one, we're gonna bend our knee. We're gonna bring our hip up and around. So knee in towards the other knee, up and out, up and out, up, out, up and around, up and around, up and up. And other side, up, boom. This is a really good one. It's a good stretch. It's an isolation, but it's also a stretch. One more. All right. my hips feel stretched out. I don't know about you. Okay, so our knee, we can bend our knee. So bend your knee back, boom, boom, boom. And other side, back, back. You can bring it just like halfway like this and hold it, or you can try to kick it all the way up to your butt. Knees kind of bend a lot like elbows. Yeah. So what our knee can also do is when it's back like this, it can go in a circle. Balance around. So what makes this look cool is the fact that nothing else in my body is moving but my lower leg. So, yeah, those are called windmills. Wee, wee, wee. They use them a lot in 20s Charleston. It's a fun move. Okay, we also have our ankles. So you can take your feet, move them around. Move them both directions, turn both ways. Might pop a little bit. And try the other foot. And the other direction. Yeah. And you can do your toes if you want to, too. Toes, toes, toes. Yeah. So there's a lot of different parts in your body that move. And so when we're dancing, we don't want to just use our legs. We can do moves that do all sorts of things, but they don't use the rest of our bodies at all. And especially as dancers, we want to be able to use our whole bodies while we're dancing. And so we wanted to show a couple ways that these isolations can apply to your solo jazz. So we picked a couple solo jazz moves, and we're going to show a couple different ways of doing them. Tacky Andes?
Let's do tacky.
Okay, so tacky Andes, that's our tap back, tacky, and tacky, and boom. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2. Tap, 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 stop off. Tap, 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 stop off. So, just doing basic, all you're doing is tapping your feet back. So, this is a tacky Annie, but it doesn't really look all that interesting. Like, all we're doing is just tapping our feet back. So, what we can do with that is we can add other things to it. One of the more common variations, you're out here a little bit more, and you're bringing your elbows back. So you're using your arms. So my body's pretty much staying still, but my arms and my legs are the ones moving. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Another one I like to do along these lines is shake my hands. Shake, boom, boom, boom. So this is more using our hands. Yeah, so don't forget about your hands. Your hands are great. Even in Lindy Hop, I forget about my hands a lot. So don't forget about your hands and wrists, and they can do really cool things. So yeah, so let's try that tacky Annie with shaking our hands or the elbows back, whichever one. 5, 6, 5, 6. Here we go. Tap, back, tap, back, stop, tap, back, tap, back, stop, tap, back, tap, back, boom, 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 bye. So you notice I can also change my level too. I can be like really down here, or I can be really up here. It's up to you to decide how you want it to look like. All right, so another tacky Annie variation that I shamelessly stole from Daniel Hugman in Sweden is turning your knee in. So instead of just tapping back, you're turning in. Tap, tap, tap. So you're putting a lot of focus on your knees right there. Tap, tap, and tap. So now with the arms, you can do 2 different things with it. So I like to just use my hands and do a hand isolation. So tap, 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 tap. So not much is moving, but you can pay attention to what is moving. Boom, 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 boom. Now, the other version of that gets bigger, boom, boom, is using your whole body. Boom, 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 boom.
Notice Sarah was incorporating her head into that as well, actually looking at where she was pointing, not just using her arms.
So this kind of brings into like the difference between doing small movements and big movements. So you can do one move and contrast it and make it look really different by doing it in different ways. This looks a lot different than this. So you can use that to make your dancing look a lot more interesting, and just like better your dancing in general. And so maybe when the music's quiet, I'm doing something small, you know, putting focus on a very specific part of my body. And then if the music's louder, or I want to do a bigger movement, I can change to something bigger. I was doing tacky Annies the whole time, but it looks really different because of how I'm moving. And so you can use that to change your movements and use them in a lot of different ways. And so that's something you can start to think about in your solo jazz and just in your swing dancing in general, is that like things can be small and you can emphasize maybe your hand, or things can be big and maybe emphasize your whole body or something like that. Like a jump emphasizes your whole body, but doing a small hand thing puts all the emphasis on one part. And so that's the cool thing about isolations, is learning what all those parts are so that you can use them when you want to and leave them alone when you don't want to. All right, so that was tacky Annies. We also talked about rocks. We also want to talk about rocks. So rocks are when we go in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, up and back, up and back, up and back. Same thing on the other side. Boom, 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 boom. Yep. So I'm rocking forward and back on my feet. Okay. All right. So some different variations of that. The one we just did, arms go up, arms go down, arms go up, arms go down. So for this one, you can really like put the emphasis on your arms. Up, down, up, down. So I'm not moving my body a whole bunch, but I'm moving my arms a lot. Boom, 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 boom. And you don't have to make it big, you can make it small too. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. So that's one way. You can also stick your elbows out like this. Boom, boom. So what I'm doing, I've got my elbows forward when I'm going forward. And then when I'm back, they turn perpendicular. So they're going up and down, forward and back, and forward and back. So that puts the emphasis on my elbows a lot. Boom, hop, and I can draw a line right here. So I've got this vertical line that comes from my arms down to my legs. And that's something you can start to think about too. It's like, what kind of shape is my body making? This makes a much different shape than the arms up. So let's try with those elbows again. So elbows up, and we go forward and back, and forward and back, and forward and back. Boom, hop, boom, hop. So for this one, I'm actually twisting more here. Instead of my shoulders moving a lot, I'm twisting my torso. So my upper body is staying pretty much the same. I'm just turning it, whereas all the twisting is happening right here. Boom, hop, boom, hop, boom, hop. Yeah. You can also put the emphasis in your hips. Boom, hop, boom, hop. It's easier inside. Boom, hop. So you can keep your arms relatively still and focus, put the focus on your hips. Boom, hop, boom, hop. So this is a very different focus than our arms going up and down. Now, of course, you can combine all of these and use full body movement. Again, that's different. So maybe you start small with just your hips going, and then you turn it into a big thing. So it's that same thing. We can go from like one thing moving to lots of things moving to our full body movement to really emphasize what we're doing. So yeah, that was rocks. Those are rocks. All right, and then the last one we were thinking about doing was boogie drop. So that's our tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. tap, tap, down, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. So boogie drops, a boogie drop, boogie drop. All right, so that was kind of like regular level. Like we're moving some, we're not making it super dramatic, but you can tell we're moving, right? So we can make it really small, just using our foot. Boogie drop, boogie drop, boogie drop, boogie drop. So what I'm doing there, I'm getting up on the balls of my feet a little bit, and then just tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. So I'm really only moving my feet. Tap, tap, down. Go back. Tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. Now to emphasize that, we can keep our upper bodies really stiff. So like if I'm just like tap, tap, down, and like other parts are moving, you can't really tell that it's cool that my foot is doing all the work. So if I keep everything stiff, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. And then you're really only paying attention to my feet. And so then you're like, oh, that's a cool thing, even though none of the rest of my body is moving. Let's see.
You can also play with the shapes we're making with our feet. So for instance, do toe, heel. Bring our knee in.
Toe, heel, down.
Toe, heel, down. Toe, heel, down. Toe, heel, down. Toe, heel, down.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that one and the next one, we can also change the direction our bodies are moving. So the first one, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. I can definitely do this with my body facing forwards, or I can turn from side to side. Tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. So again, turning it from an isolation into a full body movement that involves everything. On the flip side of small, we can also make our movements really big and dramatic. Tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. So we can make it really big, we can go really low with it. Tap, tap, down. I like putting my arms up too. Tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down. That's another way that you can use your whole body, or use different parts of your body in those. Yeah. And there's so many more. We only wanted to go over a couple today because we want you to experiment. So pick your favorite solo jazz move and just try different things. What happens if you move your head? What happens if you move your shoulders? One of my personal favorites is a Suzy Q with my shoulders going. Boom, 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 boom. So I really like moving my shoulders with Suzy Qs instead of just a plain Suzy Q. If I put my shoulders in, it adds to the idea. Shorty George. Boom, 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 boom. Using your rib cage and your shoulders and your hips. Shoulders and hips are moving. And you can also use your hands too. So you can point. Boom. You know, you can change what your hands are doing and what your fingers are doing. So there's so many different ways that you can move your bodies, and we want you to experiment with them. Take, in that warm-up that I posted yesterday, you can take those moves and see what you can do with them. What happens if I move my body differently? Because in swing dancing, there's no wrong answers. And so if you like the way something feels and looks, try it, do it. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, just, again, emphasizing what Sarah says. There is no wrong way to do certain moves. Everything is technically a variation, depending on how you do it. So feel free to get crazy with the shapes. Do whatever feels fun, what you enjoy.
Yeah. And that's all we got for you today. Short lesson, but a really good one about moving your body. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you with the next video.